In this video, I'm going to be talking about some college football teams who, let's be honest, at this point should probably consider moving down to FCS. Admittedly, it is easier than ever, it feels like, to move up to FBS. We've got more teams moving every single year. I believe Jacksonville State is now an FBS team as of this year, and so is UL Monroe. But these are just three teams that I think have been so bad recently, it just doesn't make any sense from a competitive standpoint. And you also look at their stadiums, all of it together, there's no reason they should still be in FBS. The first team, it's got to be UMass. I mean, UMass, when you take a look at what they've done recently, let's start in 2012. 1 win, 3 wins, 2 wins, 4 wins, 1, 0. They went 0-4 in 2020. 1-11 and 1-11. This team they just can't compete. I'm sorry. Now, it is interesting because they're an independent, so they actually kind of have a tougher schedule, if you want to call it that, because as an independent, sometimes they'll face better teams. I believe Penn State is facing UMass this year, but yeah, this team, you look at their stadium, everything together, it's just sad at this point. It really is. And they're going to keep losing every game by 40 points. They'll probably beat an FCS team, which is really where they should be right now. That's always going to be like their only win whenever they face an FCS team. But yeah, UMass at this point, you know, their basketball program's not very good either. I don't know. It's just like they're a guaranteed 2-10, 1-11 type team, and they play at a stadium with very low attendance. I would consider moving them down to FCS. The next team, it is New Mexico State. Now, people will be like, how can you say that? New Mexico State, they ended up going 7-6 last year. They won a bowl game, yes, but realistically, that team got extremely lucky. They should have been nowhere near 7-6. You take a look at their past few years, 2-10, 1-1, 2-10, 3-9. Was it New Mexico or New Mexico State that had that hazing scandal? I mean, that was a real bad scandal. I can't remember which one it was, but if it was New Mexico State for their basketball program, that's just another reason they should move down to FCS. This is just not a competitive team, I'm sorry, and they have a horrifically bad stadium. They're trying to get a renovation on it, but it is brutally ugly. And it's sad because New Mexico State, it's a beautiful area, there's good views, but overall, it is a very, very poor stadium. And then the next team I think should move down to FCS. It's Texas State University. Funny enough, Texas State had a game last year against Baylor, and I said they were an FCS. And people in the comments were like, you're so disrespectful. Honestly, I legitimately thought Texas State was FCS. I did. I'm sorry. I consider myself a college football expert. That was not good. But Texas State, I was like, how bad is how irrelevant has Texas State been? Do we really hear anyone talking about Texas State football? Well, let's take a look. They haven't won more than 4 games since at least 2014. It's remarkable. It really is. And they're getting a weird, I'll give them credit. Number one, they've got a beautiful logo. They've got beautiful colors. And they have this weird $4 million renovation that they planned. Behind their own end zone is the weight room. It's just a strange design. I've never seen that. You literally walk off of the field into the weight room. You can see the weight room from the field. Like it's just weird. But they're also building a nice complex back there. So I guess, Texas State, it is what it is. I just think they're a program. They just kind of remind me of an FCS program, in my opinion. But I would say those would be the 3 main ones. Again, realistically, FBS is expanding. I mean, we're getting more teams every year. And we just got, Jacksonville State, UL Monroe, some other teams that are kind of iffy. So I think what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a huge emphasis. I mean, there already is an emphasis on Power 5, but it's just going to be so ridiculous in the future that they might just completely separate the leagues, honestly. Well, I guess the leagues are not separated yet, but even with the group of 5, it feels like there's a difference between a team like Texas State and a team like Memphis. It's just not even close. And then another team that I think is kind of in the warning zone right now, Obviously, we wouldn't expect anything to happen to Hawaii in terms of them having to go down to FCS, but they have a really bad stadium situation. I wonder what the Mountain West does with them, because if they have to stay at that complex and play there for the next 5 or 6 years, I mean, there's no end in sight to their stadium issues. I know they're trying to build it by 2028. I did a video yesterday talking about Hawaii football, and their program seems to be in some trouble. I don't know. We'll see if they can get that stadium funded, but they're on a real bad downtrend. And I believe Vanderbilt is like 17-point favorites over them. And remember, Vanderbilt is playing at a construction site. That game is that'll be hilarious. That'll be some big college football week 0 action where those two teams play. But yeah, Hawaii's probably going to win like 2 games again. If I'm the Mountain West, do I consider through this whole realignment thing just leaving them behind or kicking them out of the league? I don't know what I would do with Hawaii. They need to get that new stadium funded. But those would just be like 3 teams that I can look at. You could also consider UConn. What do you do with them? Well, UConn has a really good basketball program, and actually their football team, believe they made a bowl game last year as well. So I mean, honestly, you could just look at the preseason ESPN FPI and scroll to the bottom and take a little look-see. Oh, there's Sam Houston. You know what? I think Sam Houston needs to go back to Sam Houston State. It just rolls off the tongue better. But yeah, once again, UMass by far the worst team. Jacksonville State somehow becomes FBS. There's New Mexico State. Oh, there's Florida International. Florida International was dreadful last year. Akron really has got to do something with their program. They're another one they've been horrible the past 4 or 5 years. UL Monroe. Oh, New Mexico. Is New Mexico better than... Oh, New Mexico State must be actually pretty good this year. That surprises me. Nevada was so bad last year. There's Texas State. I'm surprised how high Texas State is. But yeah, you just take a look at some of those teams. Like, I would say UMass should be gone. Just kick UMass to FCS. See if UMass can win a championship. Put UMass against North Dakota State. Winner goes to FBS. There you go. UMass goes down. Send Florida International down, honestly. New Mexico State. But apparently they're not even on here. And then Texas State. You could also throw Akron down as well. They should be relegated to FCS. We also have an update on the ACC meeting from might have been 2 days ago or yesterday or something. Stanford and Cal to the ACC picked up momentum and was discussed for most of the meeting that they had. The ACC taking all 4 of the Pac-4 as a possibility now. And did I not say that was going to happen? Well, I didn't say that was going to happen. I said, listen, there might be a West Wing 2.0, and now it comes out that, because of travel, this could happen. So the issue I see right now with the ACC adding the 4 Pac-4 teams is that Oregon State and Washington State, they need money. And the only way this is going to be facilitated is through ESPN. And ESPN is down on their luck right now. They're firing everyone left and right. Would ESPN, in an effort to get more 10 o'clock games at night, would they add Washington State and Oregon State and say, all right, we won't add you, because the thing is, Stanford and Cal are desperate and they're saying we will join and we do not need any TV money the first few years. Well, I would guess that both Oregon State and Washington State would need money just to keep their programs going. So would ESPN say, all right, we'll give them 40 or 50% share the first 3 or 4 years to facilitate this West Wing, and that's how you would get that going. At this point, I mean, if something like this happened to where they added the 4 Pac-4 schools, Clemson and Florida State are out the door. NC State and you would have to think North Carolina would be out the door, because it's just too many teams. It's watering down the league. But does it even make sense for ESPN to do this? I guess if you want to keep the ACC together and keep it strong, the idea that it would just be Stanford and Cal, it would just be a horrible travel situation for them. This is like the Big Ten last year when everyone freaked out, and I said they're just going to add Oregon and Washington, and they end up doing that to mitigate the travel. Expect a vote by today or tomorrow. I don't expect this vote to pass. I mean, because see, it says NC State and North Carolina are the swing votes, But why would they change their votes? Unless there's like some under the table thing where there's like a deal and those schools get money or something that makes them change their votes. It just doesn't make any sense for either of those schools if they think, I mean, I could see NC State voting them in, but NC State and North Carolina right now are tied together, and then you can see any word on SMU, Cal and Stanford more likely than SMU as of now, so they would be adding both of those teams, and then maybe SMU next offseason. But that is the latest rumors in regards to that. I think it's interesting they're talking about the Pac-4 schools because they realize inevitably they're going to have to do something to try and mitigate all of the horrible travel that's going to be happening to Cal and Stanford. And I'm sure Cal and Stanford, I mean, you're signing up for this. It's just a terrible deal. I mean, doesn't Stanford really care about all of its sports? I mean, Stanford, you would think, would be the one team that would be like, no, we're not sacrificing this. It's dumb. You know, I could certainly see other football teams, other teams doing it because they're obsessed with football. But it seems like Stanford would be the one team that says, I mean, we're Olympics. We're not going to travel with all of our different, teams just because of football, but I don't know, maybe they'll do it. There has to be some type of compromise, you would think, when it comes to that. Either way, guys, that is the update on the ACC. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.